Welcome, Fall Rivers. We're glad to have you this afternoon at the All-America City. And we're anxious to hear your story. So are you ready to share that story with us?
Do we have the option to go later?
All right, you may begin.
Good afternoon. We thank you for the opportunity to share some of the exciting initiatives that are taking place in Fall River. My name is Christian McCluskey, along with Lillian, Jason, Christian, and Marsha. We're going to discuss it takes a committed, caring, collaborating village to raise a child and ensure that they are successful in school and in life. Lillian?
Good afternoon. Fall River, nicknamed the Scholarship City, is the birthplace of Emeril Lagasse, Lizzie Borden, and Good Morning America co-host George Stephanopoulos. Once the largest textile town in America, is now home to the country's largest collection of World War II naval ships. Located 50 miles from Boston and 2,000 miles from Denver, I guess you could say that we in Fall River have come a long way, especially when it comes to helping our youth succeed. Fall River, named for the falls of the Quequechan River around which it was built, is home to just under 90,000 people. Unfortunately, we also have one of the highest unemployment rates in the state. 20% of our population lives in poverty. 70% of our children receive free or reduced lunches, and about 50% live in homes that receive public assistance. There are many challenges in our city of Fall River, but today we want to share with you 3 ways that we are helping to empower our youth and build our next generation of leaders.
Fall River. My name is Jason. Thank you very much. Students spend about 26% of their time in school. As a community with a high level of low socioeconomic students, Fall River has pushed to increase the time that students spend in school, whether it be after-school programs or extended day. While we've had much progress with student performance, we've also noticed a very glaring statistic that student attendance has been very low. To combat that issue and to help improve the education for 10,000 plus students in our district, what we did was we came together and we analyzed a few programs that we could instill to increase the attendance numbers. I'm going to talk about a couple of those. The first one was the empty chair program. What that program did was we put a red desk and a red chair at every single entrance of every single school, most community buildings in our city, and most government buildings. The idea of that was to increase the knowledge that children needed to be inside of school. Second thing we did is we started a walk-in bus program at many schools in our district. What that was, we took a school staff and we had them walk around a route every single morning, and we would pick up students from their homes. We were allowed families to walk if they wanted to, but we figured that if we created the school bus, that students would be more inclined to come to school. The last one is we had a parent outreach worker. This person's job was to work specifically with students who were chronically absent to school. And they would go around to families and they would try to find ways to get kids in school. While we did great with all of those things, we understood that we also needed to find a way to introduce our parents to the school setting. And Christian's going to tell us a little bit about that.
Good afternoon. In Fall River, we are faced with many challenges, one being parent engagement. One solution, the Parent Academy. Even though it is still in its first year, it's off to a very good start. Throughout the process, we realized that it takes more than a single program, building, agency, organization, but rather a village to provide this kind of support. The Parent Academy offers learning and personal growth opportunities put together by the scores of community agencies and organizations held at different sites throughout the city. We also focus on addressing parenting concerns like behavioral issues, such as bullying, helping children with homework, and challenges of standardized testing. The Parent Academy provides fun opportunities for social interaction and physical activities like family Zumba and family Taekwondo. We feel personal growth is very important, so we have sessions related to health and fitness, stress reduction, financial management, and more. The best part, all of the sessions are free of charge, so you know the price is right. What makes this program very unique is that it is put together by the dozens of community partners, all whom donate their time to make this happen. So what happens to the young people of Fall River when they are supported? They become successful and they pay it forward.
So I was born and raised in Fall River. I'm the youngest of 3 children, and up until the time I went to college, I attended all public schools in the city. Growing up, I had a lot of academic pressure from my parents, but not only from my parents, but from myself as well. Unfortunately, my parents weren't around much when I was growing up, but that isn't because they didn't want to be. It's because they were working a lot. I grew up in a low-income household, despite my father working 72 hours a week as a cook and my mom working up to 3 jobs a week. In high school, I first became involved with community engagement, and I learned what it meant to really give back to your community. I became a member of dynamic youth groups who focused on strengthening relationships between groups of very diverse students. That led me to become one of the authors of the Fall River Youth Bill of Rights, only the third of its kind in the country. And eventually, I also became a representative on the first ever Massachusetts Governor's Statewide Youth Council. There, I learned about legislature, and I was able to advise the governor on the different matters and policies that were going to be passed and that would affect youth across the state. I was a first-generation college student, and I also just recently graduated from Northeastern University's Doctor of Pharmacy program. My name is Dr. Lillian Fong. I'm 24 years old, and I was raised by the river.
Sorry, I have a hard time standing still, so I just want to say that I'm very honored to be here representing the great city of Fall River. I have to acknowledge that I'm a small piece of a large group of people and agencies that focus on providing the best services for our community as well as opportunities. I'm a Fall River public school educator. I'm a mentor to my 8-year-old son. I also volunteer in many community and sporting events. I've started many different youth programs, one being the Young Gentlemen's Club, where I work with boys in grades 4 through 7 to work on things like manners, goal setting, and how to be respectful citizens. I started the J&J Foundation. The goal of that was to offer free summer basketball tournaments, and then in the winter to offer subsidized clinics for basketball as well, for the winter and fall. Fall River is an all-America city, just because of the fact that we have a very diverse population, whether it be the culture, the religion, or just the way people are brought up. But we continue to lead other gateway cities in a collaborative effort to give our citizens the best things that they possibly deserve. Whether it be supporting high school students who are battling cancer, or whether it be to find shelter, food, clothing for displaced families. I am a product of Fall River. I was adopted at 16 by my freshman football coach. The youth services programs that I went through in Fall River not only gave me lifelong mentors and friends, but also provided me with an opportunity to improve my life and the life of those around me. My name is Jason Spring. I'm 27 years old, and I'm proud to say I was raised by the river.
So I was born in Puerto Rico. When I was about 6 years old, I lost my mother. Shortly after, I was taken away from my father and placed with my grandmother for care. Throughout that time, I went to school both in Chicago for a little while, and then I found myself in Fall River. I was always involved with things like music. I love music and I love sports, so I did a little bit of football, and I was involved with different programs throughout my school career. I will grow to know certain people that in the long run were going to help me out. Some of them are called, their names is Mr. Corey, Mr. Lee, Christian McCluskey, and these are people that no matter what happens, believes in you, right? So I'm faced with the question, what have brought me here today, right? So I never in a million years would have thought that I would travel all the way to Denver to sit here and represent for this beautiful city that is very small, but is full of warriors. So my time in school, I went up to the 11th grade and decided that I quit. No particular reason, nobody pushed me out. I decided that on my own, so I made the choice. When I did that, I found myself homeless. I found myself selling drugs. I found myself committing crime. I found myself in much conflict, and I ended up getting locked up. While I was locked up in that silent cell where there was no life, there was no color, there was darkness, it was time for me to think. It was something about that room, about those walls that had me thinking, what is next? What is next? You know, so the time that I was out there out in the streets, every so often I would get a ray of light. And that ray of light was the people that Christian McCluskey every so often would send over to the neighborhoods to say, hey, Christian, we are still here where you left us at. And I'm talking this is 4 years later. Every so often I would get a phone call from people and say, hey, Christian, I think the police is looking for you, but they're detectives because they're coming in T-shirts, and it says outreach team in the back, but I highly doubt that that's the case. So with time went on, and the time went on, and I'm like, who are these people? Right before I reached out to this man, and I wasn't going to tell him I was going to put him on the spot because he hates it, but right before I reached out to this man, I ended up getting locked up. I got locked up, and I thought about all those voices. That silent in that cell was making the voices in my head much louder. Those voices that reminded me that I am not this person who I am there. Those voices that are telling me, I mean, as I went up to the judge and they're reading off all the stuff that I did, it did not sound like that was me. So the time went on and I was able to bail myself out. I was able to look down my contact list and see who it is that can help me out. But all the numbers that I had in there were all also drug dealers and people that was out in the street until one name came up, and that name was Mr. Leet. And I seen it there, and it was 4 years, and before that I haven't talked to him at all, and this man is no longer at the school or working there. I'm no longer his responsibility in any shape or form. But at 4 o'clock in the morning, I found myself in a very dark place again, thinking, what should I do? And I call him. He picks up the phone. I ask who it is, and he tells me, Mr. Leet. And I will forever remember the fact that he said that he's been waiting on that phone call for a very long time, and I finally made that phone call, and I finally figured out exactly what makes Fall River works, and it's exactly that. The community cares, the community's together. He was able to bring me to a program called Youth Build Fall River, where I was able to get my GED and get a working trade doing construction. In that same school, they brought me back and they asked me to stick around so that way I can talk to kids. So I did that for a little while. I left. I went to school. I went to college for a bit. And then they called me back. They said, Christian, would you like to be the head of the mentoring program there? We have a new building. We have a new place. This place is beautiful. When I go to that place, it's exactly the same court where I was trialed at. And when they showed me the office, it was exactly the same cell that I made that choice to keep moving forward. So what did I do? I asked them long before they take down these cells and all this stuff. I told them I will do it. I will take down those cell doors. I will paint that spot. And I painted it bright green because it was too dark. They happened to use this gray color that almost resembles death. And these dim lights that are almost just for your psychology to kind of just get a little crazy. But you know what? I put a big old light right up there. And just where I was trapped at, in a place where I couldn't find no answer, is now where I give it and pay it forward. And I'm very proud to know and tell you that I now mentor 100 kids from that same cell and another 12 from family services. My name is Christian Barrios. I'm 28 years old, and I was raised by the river.
All right, now you've heard a little bit about the quality of our programs. We want to go by the numbers, so let's hear a little bit about the quantity. All right, first, as far as attendance is concerned.
100.
That's the percentage of our 17 schools in Fall River that are participating in our Attendance Matter campaign.
41.
That's the number of bright red chairs that we have all around the community, signifying the fact that teachers cannot teach an empty chair.
45.
That's the number of students in the Laterno Elementary walking school bus that walks 5 days a week in all kinds of New England weather and is going to be honored at the State House at the end of this month with the Massachusetts Walking All-Star Award.
5.
That's the percent of overall reduction in citywide absentee rates since our Absentee Matter campaign started 2 years ago. 11 of our schools in Fall River whose attendance rates have improved since we began, including our high school, where the rate of attendance has improved by 12%. Parent Academy, 35 different agencies and organizations collaborating to help launch our very first year. 65 different learning opportunities that we created in that first year. 15,000 Parent Academy catalogs that were printed and distributed to all city public, private, and parochial schools. That's money. That's $100,000 in-kind services that have been provided by all of these collaborating agencies. That's the cost of the participants to participate in any of these courses. Youth development, 8 youth panelists who planned and convened a public forum on youth issues last October, addressing 29 candidates for public office. Fall River was the 3rd city in the country to ratify a youth bill of rights drafted by youth for youth. It's been several times that Fall River has been recognized as one of the 100 best communities for youth in the nation, as designated by the America's Promise Alliance. Hundreds of former youth who have chosen to work and lead in the city of Fall River, including these 3 young people to my left, and our recently elected 24-year-old mayor, who was the leader of the Fall River Youth Bill of Rights movement when he was only 18 years of age. 15,000 Fall River students who have been provided with the support that they need to help them succeed in school and in life. So what does this all add up to? Fall River, 1 in a million.